Hey ladies and gentlemen, Wolfcryer here. So, in this video, we're going to continue our discussion that I started with my previous Future of Diablo video. We're going to go over the facts, misconceptions, and speculations on how we got from Diablo 2 to the present Diablo 3 in this video. Pretty much think of this as a prelude to my previous video. Diablo 1 was released in 1996, developed by Blizzard North, who previous to that was Condor Games, and they were bought out by Blizzard. This game was met with acclaim, people loved it, people played it, people enjoyed it. It would later go on and receive its first expansion titled Hellfire, but that expansion would be created by Sierra Entertainment, a completely different company unaffiliated with Blizzard. Diablo 2 came along in the year 2000, also developed by the same company, Blizzard North. This was an actual continuation of the Diablo storyline, in which the story that was told in Diablo was expanded upon in Diablo 2, leaving Diablo's lore completely intact. Diablo 2's expansion, Lord of Destruction, would come along in the following year, 2001. Okay, so there we have the chronological order of those two games. And those two games and their expansions were met with great reviews. People enjoyed them. People liked playing them. Here is where this story takes a turn, both for the Diablo storyline or lore, if you will, and Blizzard itself. Here's where a popular misconception comes into play as well. Blizzard North was working on two titles at this time. We know that for a fact by both Blizzard statements and Blizzard North statements. They were working on Diablo 3 at this time, and they were also working on what Blizzard would dub as a Blizzard North type of game, which some rumors state that it was some type of pirate role-playing game. I don't know how that would have worked, but it was developed by Blizzard North, so it's possible it could have been a good game, and maybe they could have pulled it off, because the Diablo franchise was an excellent franchise. So in 2005, Blizzard North and Vivendi Games was the owner of Blizzard at this time. So at this time, those two came to blows over the direction of Blizzard North and the Diablo 3 game that they were working on. Some believe it was creative differences, while others liken it to creators abandoning their project and just leaving. But at this point, Blizzard North ceased to exist. Approximately 30 members of the Blizzard North team left and either joined other developers or started creating their own. You see, here's where a misconception comes into play. A lot of people think that Blizzard Activision was the cause of the derailment of the Diablo franchise, of what would have been Blizzard North's continuation of Diablo 2, when in actuality Blizzard Activision did not come into play in the whole Blizzard thing until 2008, and finally would take over the company from within in 2013, which would be after the release of Diablo 3. So they may have had their hand in Diablo 3's creation, but they weren't in control until after it was released. The other point I have trouble buying into is the fact that people would just up and abandon something they worked hard on, something they were currently working on, a creation that was entirely theirs, and just up and leave. I don't truly see that as being the case. In my opinion, what happened was Vivendi probably wanted to go in a different direction. Probably a completely different direction than the Blizzard North team wanted to go. Keep in mind, that during this time, Blizzard had enjoyed complete critical and financial success with 2002's Warcraft 3 and 2004's World of Warcraft. So Blizz itself and Vivendi Games as its owner was probably pretty high off the acclaim and the money rolling in at this time. As kind of a nod to that opinion, I was watching Jungle Queen stream the other night on Twitch. She's the wife of David Brevik, one of the founding members of Blizzard North, who later on went on to do other things and eventually took over as Gazillion's CEO. Gazillion's the developer of Marvel Heroes, and you can definitely see his influence on that game. But during their stream, I commented that a great many of us Diablo fans wished that Blizzard North had finished Diablo 3, to which he directly replied that he did too because it was going to be awesome. David Brevik has recently stepped down from Gazillion as the CEO to focus more on game making again, which is pretty cool. But as you can tell by this reaction from him that he wishes he had also finished Diablo 3, I don't think it was a matter of them going, oh, to hell with this, we're out. I am pretty sure Vivendi Games had more of a hand in the destruction of Blizzard North than Blizzard North itself did. That is my opinion based off of what I've read, what I've heard, what I've listened to, and in my opinion, that's probably more than likely what happened. Now, Diablo 3 would be released in 2012, nearly 11 years after Diablo 2's only expansion, Lord of Destruction, with Jay, fuck that guy, Wilson, at the helm. For those that don't know why that quote is attributed to him, David Brevik, the guy I talked about just now, publicly acknowledged fans' disapproval of Diablo 3 and pretty much stated that he could understand why they were upset and that they were allowed to feel that way. To which Jay Wilson pretty much replied with, fuck that guy. So this was a guy who created the franchise that you ended up taking over and ended up becoming in the spotlight for. So this is a guy who you could pretty much thank for giving you your career. Because if it wasn't for people like David Brevik in Blizzard North and the rest of the Blizzard North team, Diablo 1 and 2 would not have been the success it was that made people want a Diablo 3 and put Mr. J. Wilson into the spotlight. And yet his response to this guy, because he agreed with fans of being disapproving of the game, he pretty much just says, fuck that guy. So that's one of the things that Jay Wilson did during this time. Another thing that he did was promise, and I do say promise, I do not mean a sheet was passed around the internet with dates of when expansions were going to be coming for certain games and which games were going to be released and Titan and all of that. And this was verbally said by Jay Wilson that this game would have an amazing PvP system, an arena-based PvP system for all of its players that wanted to PvP. Later on, that would pretty much be nullified. Blizzard would come out and say that for now, only the current brawling system would be in Diablo 3, and eventually PvP itself would be scrapped from the game. And in its place, we get ponies and teddy bears in a rainbow-filled world, in a world that is supposed to be a dark gothic setting. So, great improvement there. Okay, so another thing that's attributed to Jay Wilson is we doubled it. So now you can either choose J, fuck that guy Wilson, or J, we doubled it Wilson. And he got this nickname by pretty much stating that in order to create Inferno, he took his best hardcore testers and tested them and kept upping the difficulty level until it was really, really challenging for them. And then we doubled it. So you paid a bunch of people to test how hard a game was. They said, damn, this is hard. And then you doubled it so that it became impossible for your testers to actually test it. So that's a horrible idea in a game. Eventually somebody would go on and defeat it, and eventually Crip would actually go on and defeat Inferno in hardcore, which was an amazing feat, and he did this while it was still at its hardest. So congrats to him. And congrats to everybody that was able to complete Inferno back in the day. I myself had trouble back then. Probably made it to like Act 2 or 3, and then pretty much just gave up on that part. Probably left the game for a little while, and then came back later after they had nerfed that. Diablo 3 would then be plagued by countless issues, both at launch and afterwards. And at launch, there would be countless errors. Inferno was just insanely OP, and the non-existent PvP system that was actually promised when the game was being marketed. And at this point, Jay Wilson took the fall for all of this. He eventually just stepped down from Diablo 3 and pretty much moved quietly out of the spotlight over to the WoW team and stayed with Blizzard until he retired this year. Lead would then be taken up by Josh Mascara, where he would guide Diablo 3 towards its first and only expansion, Reaper of Souls, and to the greater rifts, torment levels, past the monster level thing. And presently, Wyatt Chang has taken over more of a leadership role in the company while they look for a new design for a new Diablo project, in which they are advertising for on their job careers page. So Wyatt Chang took over because Josh Mascara also left Blizzard, and along with other Blizzard alums, including Rob Pardo, Nick Carpenter, Matthew Verslies, they went on to form Bonfire Studios, which is a brand new gaming studio company. And a good number of the team who created the Diablo 3 that we have is also no longer with the team. They have left to either pursue their own projects or have moved on to other Blizzard projects. Some of the notable ones are Leonard Boyarsky, who moved to Obsidian, the people that make Fallout. Brian Kindrigan, who moved to Epic, the Unreal people, who are developing Paragon, which is a Overwatch clone type game. Both Don Vu and John Yang have moved over to WoW Legion. So as you can see, even the team that created Diablo 3 has also changed significantly over time, and it does seem that they are devoting less and less manpower to Diablo 3. Now, it's possible that's because it's at the end of its run, but I do not see a Diablo 4 expansion coming out anytime soon because they need a team for that, and currently, in my opinion, there is not a strong enough team to develop that game. With everybody shifting over to WoW Legion so that they can get that out, and with the loss of several key figures for this Diablo's incarnation, they got to start from scratch again. So to say that a Diablo 4 is coming is probably not likely. So thank you guys for checking out this video. This was more of a history lesson on why we're at where we are in Diablo 3, and I do plan on continuing these type of discussions because it's definitely good to see people's comments, to read other people's thoughts. So feel free in the comments to leave your thoughts on this matter, how you feel about the game, etc. I definitely always read every comment. I try to respond to as many as I can. Thank you guys very much for checking out this video. If you do like this video, if you like my stuff, if you want to see more guides, that type of stuff, definitely hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you guys very much. Peace.